Thanks so much for joining us on the podcast here today. Robin, excited to have you.
Hey, Jared. Good to see you, man.
Robin, you have a vibe that I feel like I love when I can meet certain people and it feels like it's not the first meeting, but this is very much the first time we're meeting. And, that's such a rare quality. So I'm even more excited for this than I was before, we started talking here.
Well, some would say maybe I overshare a little bit on LinkedIn or I use social media, but it's also I try to always do it in a way that's authentic to me and just kind of my voice and my experience. And it does hopefully come across that I'm like I am who I say I'm on here. I'm not a different person. So I'm glad to hear you getting that line because I'm trying to be aligned with who I am online and who I am in real life. Like I'm the same dude.
You have that good vibe, that positivity, and I'm excited. So let's dig right in. So
Sure.
we're going to be talking. These are very much, like I said, coffee shop type conversations. You and I are
Sure.
meeting. We're talking. We're going to focus, obviously, our conversation on AI, given the nature of this show.
Mm-hmm.
But before we kind of go into that, would love to hear about your background and what led you to Zensai.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've been a nerd my whole life. As I grew up, I fell in love with technology at a super early age. I was born and raised in Denmark. And then when I was 21, I ended up buying a one-way ticket from Copenhagen to California because I wanted to be with all the nerds of the world. And I moved over there, I didn't have a job or a place to stay. I didn't know anybody. I'd never been. And I moved over there at the height of the dot-com era and I applied to every job I could find. Fast forward, because I don't want to go through every little detail. The beginning was rough. Lots of companies that didn't end up making it. But over the long arc of time, I ended up having a good run. I was early days at Salesforce. Then I was at Box and helped take them public. I was at a small startup company in Palo Alto, cybersecurity that ended up getting acquired. Then I was at LinkedIn for a short bit, and then I went to WeWork, which was a disaster because I was the CMO over there. That was weird. Then my last company was a company called Matterport that I took public in 21. And so I've had a good run. And one of the things I've become obsessed about is this idea of how do you create the alchemy of high performing cultures and high performing teams. I think there's no doubt the reason I've been successful in my career, I've been at C-level many times, taking companies forward, is because I've surrounded myself with great people who have the right skills and motivation at the right time to help the company excel. And so I joined this company, Zensai. We're just over 200 people. We're pretty fast growing. I would say scale up, not quite a startup anymore. We're started in Denmark, but really over half of our business comes from the US. But I joined this company because the whole mission of the company is how can we create this idea of everybody becoming the best version of themselves through the skills, knowledge, and motivation that they can get. And we call that the human success idea. Like this idea of HR is very antiquated, where you treat people as resources that can kind of be moved around. So like, how do you invest in people to become the best they can be every single day by giving them the knowledge that they need, the skills they need, the motivation they need, the goals they need to constantly crush it. I'm sure of you, Jared. I've known you for a little bit, right? But I'm sure you probably are where you are in your life because many people along the way invested in you, gave you the skills you needed, the push you needed, like a good coach or mentor or teacher or boss or something. I know that's certainly true of me. I am 100% where I am because so many people have given that to me, and I want to be that platform that does that for everybody else. That's my goal.
And there's multiple ways to do it, right?
Yeah, of course.
My family was pretty supportive growing up, but like my mom learned at an early age if she told me not to do certain things, like it would, like, are you really going to do good on your test? It's like,
Totally.
then I would study even harder, right? Like,
yeah.
I don't know, it was the same way. And
But
then,
it's a great growth hack what she's doing right there. I mean, like that's because she understands the psychology of what drives you, right? And so think about it. That's what a good coach would do. Because it's not like everybody has the same path, but it's like if I know enough about you, and that's what I ultimately am aiming to achieve with Sensei, and then of course using AI on top of that is the more I know about you, how you're performing on a day-to-day basis, who you're connected with, what you want to achieve. Let's say I'm a customer success manager today. I want to become a VP of customer success in 5-10 years. Well, let me guide you on a path of here's the skills you need to have, the knowledge you need to learn, the people you need to connect with, hard skills, soft skills. You can use AI to give that person a path that's right for them based on who they are and what they're saying they're good at and not so good at. Your mom could do that for you because she knows your skills, what drives you, and all those things, right?
well, I tell you, I like to think she was using reverse psychology, but I sometimes I don't know. Sometimes I think it was just like it's easy to look back, right? If
Yeah,
I say like something to you and it motivates you, but I
yeah,
was serious. I wasn't like trying to
yeah.
to push you either. But hey, it works, so it's whatever.
You and I
Uh,
share that. When people tell me I can't do something, oh my God, I'm gonna go do that
oh
for
yeah, it's
sure.
it was like at the last startup. Like obviously, so at my last company, first time founder, trying to figure out how to do all that stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
And it is funny though when you talk to some early stage firms. It's one thing if a firm's not interested, but like I still think as long as if an early stage founder doesn't necessarily raise a ton of capital and
Mm-hmm.
they're willing to spend some more time, there's really no way they fail.
Yeah,
Now, if they raise too much at that time and then they
mm-hmm.
have these expectations, they have to grow quickly. It just increases the likelihood, right? They're going to fail. But
Yeah, for
if
sure.
you're willing to spend a lot of time on that first company, even if it's not like you don't become this billion-dollar company, you won't fail. Like you're just so
Totally.
interested in it, and
Mm-hmm.
it was always funny because sometimes it feels like for a lot of founders that I talk to, or first-time founders, they talk to these VCs and they kind of feel like the VCs took out the venture part of venture capital,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's just
Mm-hmm.
strictly
Mm-hmm.
capital, or
It's
want
like
some sort of
interesting.
guarantee, right?
Interesting.
But I
I've
always
never
say
heard
like,
that before, but it makes sense. I can see
yeah,
that. Yeah, yeah.
and I'm not knocking it either,
No,
right?
no,
Like
yeah,
you
yeah,
have
yeah.
to make money, but I think there's certain things in people, like you were saying, if something's been cultivated. That's why I always ask people too. My favorite question is, what was your story before your
Mm-hmm.
resume in job
Mm-hmm.
interviews or in anything? Because
Mm-hmm.
you basically, if you were going to invest in that person, if you were going to, what they tell you in many
Mm-hmm.
cases, if they kind of overcame some odds or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
it just
Mm-hmm.
increases the likelihood, right, that they're going to succeed.
So I mean, like
Anyway,
I grew up with very idealistic parents, but very poor. I mean, like, and my mom and dad got divorced when I was young, and my mom had a nervous breakdown. So I kind of had to fend for myself, me and my two brothers, and it taught me a lot of resilience. I mean, I had to like, it's weird even talking about it, but I was collecting bottles on the street so I could return those bottles in the supermarket so I could get money so I could eat. It's like, and you don't think of Denmark like as being like a that kind of country, but we were super poor. We didn't have anything. So, so I've always been chasing this. I've always been an overachiever in some ways, and it's not because I really care that much about money. Of course, to me, money is a sign of freedom, and that you can choose what you want to do. I hated being poor because I hated the limitations it put on me and my family. So I always tried to fight against that. But it's not like the money itself is that more. It's the freedom that comes from having that, right? So anyway, but that question. I ask a similar version of that question when I interview people because I want to understand the motivation and the resilience that they have. I have three must-haves, non-negotiables when I hire people: grit, aptitude, and passion. You can't really fake those three things, honestly. And startup life is hard. I mean, you get knocked back all the time. You know it, right?
yeah, it's love your story by the way too. It's we need to always reflect on our personal story. I heard a VC go, "I don't care about your story," and I knew that was not the VC for me, right? I won't name who it was, but it's like,
They really said that to you? Jesus, man,
oh
that's
my god, yeah, right.
wow, wow.
Just like, listen, it's you don't need to like. They don't just invest off the story, but it should go into consideration,
Yeah,
right? Just
yeah.
much like you do due diligence on any company, you should also do diligence on the person that you're investing in. Because majority of the time, it's not the company it's who's leading the company that's going to make it succeed.
I do some angel investments. I've done maybe close to 15 over the last 10 years. Not many, right? But I've done enough. I key off with the people because at that early stage, they're going to pivot. They're going to go through many iterations of what really like the core idea is. And that's natural at the early stage, right? But I care about you have the resilience, the grit, the aptitude to figure things out, especially when things get hard, right? So I'm surprised as a VC especially should know this. They must not be a very
Yeah,
good
well,
VC.
but you know this too. Just like with companies,
Yeah,
there are a lot of VCs that are just they have no business necessarily being a VC, right? That's not a knock on all VCs.
no,
That's
no, 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 for sure. Some of them
um,
are some of them honestly are truly game changers, great operators, and some of them are just basically glorified bankers. They sit there, right? So you get that mix, right? Those two extremes.
I usually say stay away from the ones that never held a leadership position,
Yeah.
like a major
Okay.
leadership position, or
Mm-hmm.
that started a company. If they don't do one of those two things, how do you how do they expect to fully understand the
It's true.
entrepreneur,
I agree.
right? Um, I want to shift focus back to let's talk more about how Zensai is using AI, and then we'll also
Sure.
kind of talk
Yeah.
about some of the opportunities in AI that really excite you outside of the
Yeah.
company today. But let's
Yeah.
go back to that.
Sure. So when we think about what we do, right, we're kind of this what I said, a human success platform in the service of how do you really make the employee the best they can be every single day. And the way that we think about AI is as a catalyst for getting that knowledge or that skill or that motivation that you need. So, for example, let me give some concrete examples of how we use AI. One of the audiences that we deal with is HR leaders, and HR leaders spend a lot of time, as an example, because we use AI all over our part. But one of the examples is they use AI to create content for their courses. Like so, you've probably been in companies, and there's always like this training you have to take: cybersecurity training, sexual harassment training, compliance training, so on. But then there's also courses that you want people to take that are specific to their roles. Maybe you in marketing or in sales or in finance and so on. And oftentimes, this is kind of one of those crazy stats that HR teams often spend like 50% of their time trying to create the right courses and content for people to be successful in their job, which is nuts. Now AI is here. AI can do that simply. So let's say you have a 1 hour enablement session for your sales team that your sales enablement team does. Well, you can just use AI to say, hey, turn this into a course that takes 15 minutes for somebody to review, with 2 questions at the end to ensure that people have retained the knowledge. AI will create that instantly. Point to this video, point to this PowerPoint presentation, do that. AI is like perfect. So you can reduce basically the time spent creating this stuff probably by 90% at least. So that's an example there. On the learner side, the employee side, okay, show me the path to get from A to B. So I would call this kind of a human success path or an employee success path. Is I'm here today. I want in 3 years to be here. Maybe I want to move from being a SDR, BDR, somebody who's just cold calling, to somebody who is like in an accountant executive. Show me the skills I need, what I should learn, both soft skills and hard skills, based on where I am today, and then point me on a path. And then we can say, connect with this person, get this skill, take this training. Here are the goals you should be setting for yourself, and so on. Then on that side, so part of our platform is you do a check-in every single week, and it's a very simple thing. It takes a few minutes, and you basically answer a few questions. What have you achieved this week? What's blocking you this week? Like what are your obstacles? How are you doing on a scale of 1 to 10? And who do you want to high five? And each of these are super simple questions to ask, but they give us so much information about where you are. Like, if you just do that every once in a while, it's not that useful. But if you do that week over week over week, like for example, see, oh wow, Jared, over the last quarter, you've been doing your weekly check-in. Here are kind of the words you're using to describe how you're doing. Here's what's blocking you from being successful. Me as a manager can instantly go on and help you diagnose what that is. But of course, this is where AI comes in. AI can also go in and say, hey, Jared keeps saying that he's being blocked from completing this project. Well, maybe you should learn this skill about public speaking. Maybe you're not a great timekeeper. Maybe you're not really good at the details. Here's the courses you should be taking or the learning you should have, and so on. Based on the words you're using to describe what's going well and not going well, we can guide you on a path and be your coach. Kind of like I said earlier, be your mentor in some ways that guide you on a path so you can become successful. And so what we do on the employee side is like guide you on that path. But on the manager side, if I see in a check-in, for example, that somebody on my team is struggling with something, AI will come back and suggest to me how to respond to that. Because not everyone is born a natural leader. You have to learn these skills, right? So it'll say, your employee is saying they're struggling with this. Here's what you could say back. This tone of voice, you become more empathetic, more compassionate, maybe be a little bit more direct with that person based on the style of that person and so on. So we don't think of AI as replacing the need for that conversation, but it will guide you to have the right conversation and the right tone of voice so you actually get a better outcome. Because if the employee has a better outcome, guess who benefits? The company. All the data shows that companies who have employees who feel motivated, inspired, and growing in their lives and careers, they do better work. And if they do better work, the company will also, of course, massively succeed. It's not rocket science. So that's the kind of industry we focus on the individual, but really we're focusing on the companies. We want companies to do well. That's what we're in it for.
I like all of that. Two things that really stand out about what you said is because I'm thinking back to my old experiences
Mm-hmm.
and understanding kind of what's blocking you. What I
Mm-hmm.
found is like if people are procrastinating on certain tasks,
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily because they're just that's a thing they do. I
Mm-hmm.
find if there's ever tasks that I delay,
Yeah.
it's because those are the tasks that I'm not as proficient in,
Yes.
and or else I would just do it quickly and be done with it, right? Um, it's that kind of inner conversation you end up having with yourself because you're not 100% comfortable. Like
Totally.
if you're not at that level of unconscious competence, that's
Mm-hmm.
where like something needs to actually get built up, right? So
Like
that's really cool. And
I have somebody on my team, right? His name is Thomas, great guy, but I can see then instantly when he does his like weekly check-ins if there's something that he's not making progress on. And I'll tell you, Jared, it's like instead of me finding out at the end of the quarter or at the end of the year that he didn't really make progress on something, it becomes much more of a we're in this together. I'm succeeding if I can help you succeed. Instead of like this big thing that gets blown out of proportion, which oftentimes happens. I've seen that so many times, it becomes like me as a manager, I'm so much more effective because I can become like much more of a servant leader. Like, hey, Thomas, I see you're not succeeding here. What can I do to, do you not have the skills or the resources or the clarity of what you're trying to achieve? Like, what's blocking you? Let's have that. And I'm telling you, the belonging and the sense of being in it together that I have now with my team is revolutionized completely.
super interesting. And then the other piece I wanted to comment on is the high five.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great way to stand out. Of also because like, what if that person that everyone is saying high five happens to
Mm-hmm.
be the lowest performing person? But it's
Yeah.
like that. I always think back to I don't know if you watch that show Suits
Yeah.
ever, but they wanted to get rid of this guy and they said he's worse when it comes to the numbers and they said you can't get rid of him. He sits in the middle. Everyone like without that person, everything would fall
Mm-hmm.
apart, right?
Yeah,
And I feel like sometimes it won't always be the case to that, but the high five piece is like who's kind of the unsung hero here that
Mm-hmm.
everyone loves,
That's right.
but
That's right.
regardless of their situation.
Well, it's interesting. The number one question I've gotten in my career would probably be, how do I get promoted, right? How do I get to the next level? And it's really three things. It's not one thing. It's three things. You have to crush your goals consistently. So that requires you to have clarity of what your goals are in the first place. But you don't need to crush your goals once because everyone can have a good quarter, but like consistently quarter after quarter after quarter. That's number one. Number two, if you're a manager today and you want to get to a director level, start acting as if you're a director even without the title. Like model your behavior after people who are at the next level, take on more responsibility, collaborate more across departmental lines and so on. Whatever it is, that requires you to have some role models you can follow. And then finally, the third thing, to your point, you have to have a chorus of support around you. You have to have people who say, hey, Jared is a delight to work with. He shows up. He's a net positive for the team. I want him on my team. Like, when I hear those signals, like, wow, this guy is a superstar. This girl is a superstar, right? And so, but it's not one thing because you can't have somebody who's just nice to be with, but who's not crushing their performance and not really like acting in somebody else. It's usually my experience and how people get to the next level. It's all three of those things, right? And so people oftentimes neglect it. This is also why people think sometimes, hey, look at that, I'm doing my job, I'm crushing my goals. Yeah, but you're an asshole to work with, right? So we're not going to promote you, right? So it's not one of those things. It's all three of those things, really.
You can go on saying nice things about me. You didn't have to stop. You can keep going. Regardless if you're just kind of whatever came to top of mind, I don't mind.
Fair enough, fair enough.
Robin, I want to two last things before we wrap up here. Outside of the company, what areas within that are leveraging AI that are you particularly bullish on right now? And then we'll kind of wrap up with your thoughts on this amazing event that's going to be happening in March, HumanX. But let's start off with what areas of AI really excite you today outside of Zensai?
For me, number one is just, besides this whole thing, it's an obvious one, that's why I'm here, is helping me get better insight. As a leader, I feel like so many of the companies I've been at, where I've been a CMO or C-level leader, I'm drowning in information and data, and I'm starving for wisdom and insights. And I think AI is going to be a huge game changer. I think we're not quite there yet. I still feel like I have to sift through too much stuff to like really get to at the core. Like, give me the recommendation, the outcomes, the path that I should be taking to decisions I should be making and so on. We're getting there, but it's not quite there. But I think in the next 3 to 5 years, we're going to see huge movement there. And what was the second question? Yeah.
What are you looking forward to from HumanX conference?
Oh, I can't wait. I mean, I know so many of the speakers there. I've helped recruit some of them myself to come to the event. I just think it's going to be a who's who of the smartest people that I know who are going to share like the vision of what AI is going to go in so many different fields. Whether that's going to be productivity, humanity, around data, around like maybe coming up with like new ways to solve some of these big macro challenges we have around maybe climate change or sustainability or inequality and so on. I think that AI can be used across so many different things. What I'm excited by is I'm excited by more than anything that the conference is called HumanX, because to me the core is like, how do we not lose our humanity? How do we use AI to support our humanity and do more of what we're good at as people? And so I have this mantra that AI will disrupt everything to do with hard skills and data. AI will not disrupt everything to do with soft skills and emotional intelligence. It'll help it, but it won't disrupt it. So lean in wisely. And I think we're going to see that at the conference too.
Love it. Robin, thanks so much for joining me here today. Really enjoyed chatting with you. This was lovely and look forward to future conversations.
Yeah. I'll see you at the event, man.